Hello, I'm back. I don't know why the audio of the first 15 minutes in this recording is off from the gameplay, but it doesn't matter since I'm just going to talk and this is just like some background. Afterwards, it will be synchronized again. So let's talk a bit about the Samadhi state. I experienced the Samadhi state in the past, and now and then I get glimpses and I can tell you about it. But also, I want to talk about my experience again. So I was again, like I say, I do semen retention, I do nofap, but now and then I do edging. Sometimes without anything, sometimes with safe for work material, because it helps circulate my energy. And you should not dismiss it since I'm successful with it. Not all the time, I'm still experimenting. But I will also tell you again about my new female attraction story so you understand. There's a value to that, and it's important actually. I will talk later again about why it is actually important that you from time to time circulate your energy and how to do it more efficiently. Otherwise, you will be never able to stay in samadhi. But I will tell about all of this. So let's begin. Well, I was again edging to safe for work material once, and then I had half a release, like I could stop myself in between, but yeah. So a bit of ejaculation. And then I had a 2 days break, and I edged again to safe for work material, but I this time was able to not ejaculate. Oftentimes it will happen like this, like a cycle. And then after this, already my energy got activated instantly. So I went to the bar, students bar, like I always do with my girlfriend. And there was some girl all the time looking at me, trying to be close, paying attention. Then she was standing in front of us when I was sitting at the couch. Yeah, in front of us is another couch, and behind that couch, she was suddenly standing because other people were there. But she was turned towards me and dancing, like, look at me, pay attention to my body, basically. And then I told already my girlfriend because she is aware that I'm on the journey and I look out for attraction signs because it's a sign that my energy is high. So she already asked me, hey, do you get attraction today? And first I wasn't sure, but later it was so obvious because of this girl. So I told her, yeah, this girl seems to strongly be interested and so on. And my girlfriend was sitting next to me at the couch, and she said, let's see what happens if I go away for a moment. She needed to go, I think, to the toilet or something, to the restroom. So she left, and I didn't think much will happen. But suddenly this girl comes and sits directly next to me as soon as there's space free. And she's telling to a friend, yeah, I need to sit. My ass got cold, so I need to warm it. Like this, like hinting already at her body parts and so on. Super obvious. And then the friend was telling about me that I'm cold, that maybe my girlfriend is worried that I don't pay enough attention to her. And this other girl directly jumped in and was like, oh yeah, why is he cold? Why do you think so? Super interested about me. But my girlfriend came back and did not want to be there anymore. So I decided to leave also and go to my girlfriend to show her that this other girl is not important. But there you can already see strong attraction from another girl. And the next day it directly continued because I was taking my daughter. I need to go to the hometown where my mother lives, go there with my daughter. And in the train there was some young Kurdish girl, a woman, 21 years old, because I heard her all the time talking with someone else and also on the phone. She had a boyfriend, but she wasn't happy with him. She was on the phone and telling, yeah, I don't think your family accepts me, blah, blah, blah. But all the time she was looking at me. And I was sitting there a bit I don't know, I moved the seat because my daughter wanted to move the seat. So I had no direct eye contact anymore at some point. But she was talking to some other guy and also paying attention to my daughter. And I had a heavy bag, and my daughter was trying to lift it. And then this Kurdish woman was like, "Oh yeah, you're strong." Talking to my daughter, "You're trained, and your father is also trained." Hinting towards me that I have muscles because I'm working out. So you see, obvious flirting, very interested, all the time looking at me, and even commenting my physique. So it was obvious my energy got very high. But the problem is when you all the time edge to say for work material, then you also get like a chaser effect. So when I was at home with my daughter and my daughter went already to bed, I couldn't force myself not to look up a bit again stuff on the internet, and this lowered then my energy. I just realized the next day and the day after that the attraction got less. So this is an issue when you always edge with safe for work material. This lead to me again doing the same as before, again edging to safe for work to reset my energy, get it more high again. But again, I had this half release, I couldn't manage to not have it. So then I was a bit again shaky when going out, a bit worried that people will judge me. But it was like mostly fine. And already the next day, my energy kind of restored. Like I'm going out with my girlfriend, and then we go to the bus stop, and there's some girl sitting, and she always stares at me, and it's even uncomfortable, cannot stop staring at me. Then we pass the street. The cars are always stopping very politely when we need to pass the street. I know that when I'm in lower energy, it doesn't work like this. I want to go and then I'm more careful, and the cars sometimes don't stop, they drive, and I have to wait until the car is driven over, and then I can pass the street. But this is how you know, for example, you're in high energy. When always every car stops for you, every human lets you go first, and so I'm already there. And my next idea is to not repeatedly do edging on safe for work. Like you can do it maybe every second time, but then you also have to give it always a few days, and then maybe you edge, but you do it without any content, because then your chaser effect is not as strong, and then you can stay on track and you will not again later peak on some material and again lower your energy. So what I'm trying all the time to do is to achieve the perfect balance. Like I previously mentioned, I only do this because I have a girlfriend, so my drive is generally higher. And also it's good because you last longer in bed when you edge from time to time. Whenever I was single, I was completely doing monk mode, could stay away from everything. And this would always, of course, reliably attract the girls, obviously. But I learned to do it with the edging, and I'm getting better and better. It requires much more experimentation. And I came up with the metaphor of a human who eats. You need to get sexual energy circulating, because if you don't have any sexual energy, you cannot stay on a high streak. Like even when you do monk mode, eventually, be it in a month if you're very disciplined, or be it in 3 months or whatever, eventually you will always hit the flat line. When I was very new to the whole journey, I did not know I mentioned it previously or not, so let me quickly say it. I was also listening to a guy on YouTube who was already interviewed, and he was on a 1 year streak, and he was so proud of it. But he said in the beginning he got such a high attraction, he would like walk on the street. A car with girls would come by and be slower when he walks there, honk at him, then he looks, and then they are all like waving at him and say, "You're attractive," and they even whistle at him, and then they drive away. So very high energy he had. But then he said, "Yeah, I did it for a year. Sometimes you hit the flat line, and it's never as extreme as it was with the attraction. It still happens, but not to the same degree." And that's exactly the point. This is why I say you have to sometimes circulate your energy, otherwise you will not be able to stay in the highest nofap state. And you have to understand it's not just about the female attraction, it's not about chasing the female attraction, but this is a clear sign, indicator if you're in high energy. So obviously nofap alone will not keep your energy at this maximum peak performance if you don't sometimes also circulate your energy. Back to the metaphor with the eating. What I'm trying to say is you need to eat, your body needs to eat to be able to live, and you get strength from eating. And with sexual energy, it's similar. Edging is like eating. If you don't overeat, it's healthy. It gives you more sexual energy, and you can circulate this in your body. And then when you overeat, when you consume too much, for example, you repeatedly edge to safe for work, even this is already too much. It's like overeating, and it can eventually lower your energy because you get a bit restless. You get like the chaser effect, and then you again edge even though you shouldn't. So you get into this negative cycle. And this is why I say you should keep it at bay. This is of course not like your physical body. This is more like your energetical body, your nervous system, and your avatar, so to speak. And you need to learn to give it the right food, give it the right diet, so to speak. And this can, of course, change over time. You need to understand what works for you. Like it's like with the real physical body. Everybody is different and requires different things. One person needs to eat more and get strong. One person needs less, and when he eats the same amount like the other person, he already overeats and gets overweight or something. And of course, this is not healthy. And the same is for the sexual energy, for your avatar energetical body. Okay, and corn is never good. I mean, I experienced that corn can push your energy in the long term because you get extra drive, and then if you are on monk mode, it gets transformed into extra power. But it's not very sustainable. You need to do something that is more sustainable and beneficial in the long term, in the long run, because this is more like a marathon that you are doing here and not like a run. It's not like a run where you try to run quickly and you reach the goal. It's like a marathon where you run and you need to understand what is best for your body so you can survive it the best way and stay in your highest energy as much as possible. And you cannot possibly find this out without experimenting and learning what is good for your body and doing edging here and then. Like if you don't have a girlfriend, okay, cool, you can do the monk mode, of course. And normally you will probably even get a girlfriend when you do that. Like for me, it's always like this. Then I get a girlfriend. But then I'm on a more advanced challenge level where I also have to learn to, last long in bed, like keep my energy even better. So monk mode alone is not the optimal state. It's a clear indicator that when you're in bed later and you come too quickly, obviously this is not optimal. Yeah, but this way I do it is like much better for that. And this is also how you can stay in samadhi, because if you don't do anything, you will always hit the flat line at some point or whatever, and you will not be able to stay in samadhi. And I need samadhi. This is my goal, that I will eventually reach oneness and be able to stay there. So for me, just monk mode cannot work because I strive for more. I'm not like those other retainers who are just so proud of their streak, even though they have no benefits after a few months, but then they are still so proud of themselves for nothing, only because they do some pointless no-fab and staying away from everything, even though they don't have result, but only they think that they have the high day streak is already somehow enough and something to be proud of. It's not. Today I was under the shower and I was thinking about the samsara state. And, there's the counterpart to the samsara. Samadhi. I'm trying to stay in samadhi and not in samsara. And when I was under the shower, I was thinking about it. And a visual came to my mind. When you're high, oftentimes you will also get such visuals. But this came all by itself because I was contemplating about it in my mind. And I saw something like an 8, 2 circles basically. The lower circle is the samsara. Samsara is the cycle of death and rebirth, where you have your highs and your lows. And the higher circle would be, in this metaphor, samadhi. It's the state where you're always in bliss. And so you have to imagine the lower circle, sometimes you get glimpses of samadhi, but then you relapse or whatever, and you get again through the entire samsara cycle. So it's death and rebirth. And I want to be able to stay in the higher circle, in the samadhi. And yeah, those circles, they basically touch at one point. This is the point where you are in the samsara cycle for a moment, reaching samadhi. And then you need to be able to hijack that higher circle and stay on the samadhi circle instead of falling back into the samsara circle. Yeah, and for this, you need extra energy in your body. That's the point. If you don't have enough energy, sexual energy, you are not able to sustain higher powers, because what happens in the higher consciousness, in samadhi, is that you take all the energy and you keep it circling so that you can stay in the samadhi. So it doesn't work if you never entertain your sexuality, You can do it in a healthy way without corn and so on. Let's see. Because I also have this one spiritual friend. I met him recently at the bar, and he was saying, yeah, you can always stay in the highest state. No matter what's going on, you can shift your reality. You can reality jump into a parallel universe where everything is positive, blah, blah, blah. And I think he's not entirely correct. I told him it's not that easy, because you have your avatar and you have a nervous system, and you need to retrain your nervous system to be able to stay in samadhi. And also, you need to understand certain wrong thinking that you have and be able to process it. You have to come to understandings, what is the right way to shift thought patterns. And this is all not so easy because throughout our lives we collect wrong thought patterns, from childhood and teenage years and so on, where something didn't go well, and then we need to process it. Sometimes we can use LSD, for example, for it, but like this should not be something you do a lot. I currently am doing it like every half a year once. I only did it twice so far because it really can also help you to release some mental knots where you have some wrong thinking, and then you can see it sometimes like even in a visual style, and you understand where's the issue, where's your wrong thinking. You can let it go and the knot unknots itself. This is oftentimes also followed by an emotional release. Maybe you have to cry because you finally let go of something. Sometimes something in the outer world needs to happen, some difficult situation. And then when you're at the point where you are nearly breaking, you understand that it's not important, or you can let go, or whatever. And then the mental knot also dissolves. And yeah, oftentimes it would come together with crying because you let go. Stuff like this. Yeah, and the avatar, like I said, also needs the energy. So you cannot just do whatever, be in any emotional state, and be like, okay, I now instantly switch, and now I'm positive. I don't know how he thinks this is correct. To me, this is delusional. It's such a lazy idea. In reality, you need to put much more work into everything, otherwise, it will not work. Um, let's see. Yeah, I'm now also I created sigils that are supposed to help me to reach my goals. I created a sigil that says I am always in samadhi, and a sigil that says I am always in the hay state. This high nofap state where I automatically don't say hi to people anymore, but I say hey with a very cool voice that I cannot fake if I'm not in the right energy. And it happens automatically, and I want to be able to achieve these states. Basically, it's one and the same state, but I found the different wordings for them. So I have sigils that help me manifest it. So I write down the statement, I cut out the vowels, and I make a sigil out of it that contains every letter once combined into a sigil that I put somewhere in my room so I can see it, and it's supposed to transform my subconscious. Okay. Of course, there's also the negative states when you're unbalanced because you relapsed to corn or something. I had one such a state in the past. This doesn't happen to me anymore. But for example, it happened in the past in 2023. I still had two such experiences, and the one was where I was going to the Mensa, the place where you can get to eat at the food at the university. And in these states, you just try to be normal, and still somehow people always pick on you. They were serving food like meat or whatever, schnitzel, and they were serving it together with noodles or French fries. I wanted French fries, but somehow they were putting mostly the noodles. And I thought, okay, when it's my turn, the woman who was doing it by herself will ask which one I want, but she didn't, and she was about to do the noodles, and I was like, I want the French fries. And then directly she got like pissed and in a bad tone told me, why didn't you say so? And I hate it. Then I also want to fight back because it triggers my ego. I don't want to be the pushover, of course, even when I'm in low energy. So I was arguing with her that she could also ask me, and then she gave me the French fries and said with such a tone, bitte, like she did still good and she's good even though she was mean to me. And then I passive aggressively said, ja danke auch. Well, thanks a lot, something like this. And then she directly got super picky and wanted to ask me, what's your name? Like she wanted to write it down to create trouble for me. But I just went off with my food because I don't need to give her anything. But this type of situations happen when you're in low energy. It's very exhausting, but I don't get these anymore since 2023. I balanced my energy enough to never fall to this degree anymore. So this is already something I'm very proud of. Also, when you're in lower energy, just a bit, like even when you just edged a bit too much, and this still happens, but it's not comparable to what happened in the past. But when you get into a bit lower energy, for me personally, I'm getting more edgy and easily triggered, and I'm more provocative, therefore, which creates unnecessary trouble with other people. For me, mostly like with my family members, because there I'm more outspoken. So this is all not necessary. Also more problems when I'm talking to my daughter and she misbehaves, then I cannot take it so easily. This is why it's important to always stay in the highest energies. But I'm trying to get there as good as possible while also being able to perform well in every area and therefore experimenting with some edging as well. But when it comes to samadhi, also in general, just taking life easy, there's stuff that you can do so that in general you have a better life experience. Never undervalue other people, even if they don't share your opinions on semen retention or spirituality or even stuff like the vaccine or something. They all still have value. Like, I mean, especially your friends. Don't stay away from people only because they have other beliefs or whatever. A friend of mine said something very wise. He said, we should focus on what unites us, not on what separates us. And he's so correct. Like, my friends, not all of them, but many of them, they would not agree if I would talk about all of these things, but I don't do it. And we have a lot of other stuff that we can talk about, just normal stuff. So they are very valuable and they push my energy high. This is something great about friends, or even like also your girlfriend, of course. When you hang out with them, they always push your energy higher. Like even if your energy is lower, you go out with them and directly it's higher. I remember I was on a semen retention monk streak. It was completely well. And then sometimes still the outer reality was fluctuating. Like I would not always get all the strong attraction and attention, not all the time. But then the moment I would hang out with friends or my girlfriend, directly all the attention was back. So other people, your friends, they're very valuable and they push you higher. So you have to be thankful for them. Don't be like those retainers that say, I can only talk to other retainers and stuff. This is all BS. And you are supposed to go out in the world. You cannot do it if you only stay with other like minded people who are very rare. Other people also have value. And they ground you that you don't over talk about stuff. When my awakening just happened, I was also too talkative about it, my spiritual awakening. And they were telling me I'm overdoing it and stuff. And they were right. So they also helped me to be more chill and more calibrated to society. So this is all not bad at all. For me personally, in general, when I go out and I'm around a lot of people, it always fills up my own energy, my battery, my social battery. I'm an extrovert. I personally need that. But other than that, you should also just enjoy life in general. When today was such a day. I was at the bus. In the bus, I was looking out of the window and just seeing happy children playing with a ball or laughing, running around, such stuff. It always makes me happy and reminds me that this world is not only bad, that there's also good things to the world. And stuff like seeing children even can pushes me into the samadhi state, sometimes randomly. I don't know. It just connects me somehow with the oneness of everything. Seeing happy people, but even seeing cars, seeing buses, somehow it has something. It's different concepts. When I see them, they activate certain neurological pathways in me that help me perceive oneness. I cannot exactly tell you why it's buses, for example, or even screens when there's some huge advertisement monitor going on. I think it just makes me feel more alive or something, that I'm part of something huge that is ever going, some infinite experience, and it makes me feel very alive. Also, just to remember that not only the stuff in your mind is real, but the surroundings, the outside world is also still as real. Even though your brain has its own interpretation of it, through your eyes you get the signal, but the outer world is nevertheless completely real. And it's very nice sometimes to talk to people and you just see their point of view and that they're complete separate beings, and everything that keeps you away from solipsism. Whenever you feel solipsistic, this can create some negative feeling, like you are caught somehow and none of this matters and nothing is real. It's always good to go out in the real world and you get more alive again. Also, of course, you can train your samadhi muscle, so to speak, if you just on purpose try to remember how it feels to be in samadhi. For short moments, you can do it sometimes, and I think you can do it more and more if you try more. And also, of course, if you have more sexual energy and you push your energy higher, you will have more fuel to be able to make it done. Yeah, but it's probably not without effort. Sometimes for me, it happens effortlessly that I'm suddenly in samadhi and something that I saw just triggers it. But I think you can also train the muscle. I don't do it for the most part, but I don't know. I should train more my mental muscle to be able to stay there. Of course, you can look at stuff and perceive it like an outer observer. Like when I write something down, like the notes for this here, I looked at my hands, I was imagining that I'm just some observer, that I'm not the human, that I'm just observing it like God. And it also directly helps shift your mind. Then, of course, LSD, it makes you realize that none of this is real. You are not real, nothing is real, others are not real. And it's like a complete ego death that you can get for a moment. And it can be scary, but there's nothing to be worried of, and you can let go, especially with LSD, because it makes you think super clearly and you are not lingering on to thoughts, unlike on weed. This is the big difference between LSD and weed. So it's very freeing. And in general, I don't say we don't have free will, but when I look around, sometimes it really feels like we are all just in a continuum and we have no decision that we can make because everything is already predestined. Especially also when I see my daughter and how she always responds the moment you tell her she can get candy if she cooperates, or that you will turn on television cartoon for her, then she cooperates, like completely selfish. This is how children are, and we were all children and now we're just grown ups, and it makes me really wonder to what degree we are autonomous beings and to what degree we are just like robots basically. But I don't mean it like in a bad cold way. It just feels like we are all already predestined. Everything that happens is predestined. But it can also make you relax into the experience because you don't take everything too serious. You understand you're just the observer, and everything that is supposed to happen will happen. And there's no need to always worry about the future and the past. You should always stay in the moment. I mean, also, when I'm with my girlfriend, my life teaches me to be more in the moment because she's from Japan and she will eventually go back to Japan, and we don't know what will happen afterwards. And sometimes we think too much about it and then we are getting in a bad mood. But this experience tells us to enjoy the now moment and not be focused on the future or whatever. So, this is a teaching lesson for me, for example, that came into my life. And it's a beautiful experience the moment I stay in the now moment and don't overthink about the future. Yeah, because most of the time we are worried for no reason. Always when I have to write some document because I'm expecting money and I don't know if I gave all the information correctly, or maybe there's more trouble later and I'm worried that I will not get my money, stuff like this. Most of this is in our heads, and we are just poisoning our own experience of this life, even though we can just breathe deeply and relax and let go. And most of the time, also from my personal experience, always eventually turns out well, and all these worries were completely pointless. So I don't know, we should really stop to over worry so much. But this is also what a good retention streak probably helps with. This is in general what our entire humanity is supposed to do: make the evolutionary jump from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset. Understand that this world is abundant and always delivers what we need, and it's all not that bad. We have to go to enlightenment, the highest state, and not stay in the lowest state, the fear. Um, the fear is something exactly where the mother of my child is living. She's always in fear. She is in her lowest chakra, always having paranoia, and therefore not wanting to give me child custody. And I try to be the opposite. I think she has a terrible life. If she always lives in fear, I am sure this is very not very nice. Mm, yeah. God always provides for us. You know, it's the small things. You can be so happy about the smallest things. For example, I normally get cut my hair but by my grandfather, but he cannot do it right now because he is in hospital for a while. And I was always so stressed that no one else will be able to cut my hair the same good way. But today I went to a barber very close to my girlfriend, and I got a very nice haircut for a cheap price. This is also something. The good stuff is always cheap. You don't need the most expensive car and stuff or the most expensive food. You always can get very much value from a low price. This is something that in our reality works well. And you should be so thankful about these small things that is provided for all. You know, we're not living in some poor third world country. I hope, like, but me personally, I'm not. And we should just be more thankful for what we have and stop over worrying about stuff. Also, with my nofab, um, my problem is I oftentimes edged too often because I wanted to always restore my high energy whenever I lost it, and then I would on purpose make a strategy out of it and edge too often. And I don't know, if I would be just more chill and not always trying to be perfect and get the highest charisma, it would flow more naturally, and I would be able to listen better to my body instead of over strategizing. And this is also what I'm learning now, to stop always being trying to be so perfect and finally letting go, and therefore also ultimately paradoxically achieving exactly what I wanted, because I I am more in peace with myself and I'm less outwardly focused, and people pick up on this in a positive way. Okay, this video was maybe a bit more I don't know, I rambled a bit. I hope I still could make my point. Um, like, share, subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye.